We left off, we were in, STL. God, get that off my screen. Go away, STL. All right. Back into main. And let's download all this new logic that we've created. And, oh good, it compiled. Hopefully that means no mistakes. Good, 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 good. I'm already happy. All right, let's run it. Okay, we are running now. And let's check. We are in, we've got a monitor. That's the problem. Okay, let's start monitoring. Now we can see where we're at. And good. What's running right now is 1. So we're in program language 1. That's what's energized. And we are looking for our ladders. So let's go into our ladder HOA, which is right here. And we're also going to need our IO ladder. Man, I hate the way it just jumps around randomly like that. This thing sucks. Okay, IO ladder. Got it. And let's go into our HOA and we're going to monitor. So right now our station, let's go all the way up to the top here. Our oil pump VFD is on 0. Let's test hand mode. So let's modify to 1. Modify to, not 1 again, modify to 0. And now our oil pump HOA is set to 1. Let's go into our IO and let's monitor this. And sure enough, our oil pump is energized. Let's go back into ladders. And now we're going to put this into auto mode. So modify to 1. Modify back to 0. Now our HOA is on 2. And our oil pump is not energized because while that's in 2, we have not energized the control bit. Okay, I would say that these probably work just fine. Let's disable monitoring, close, disable monitoring, close. And let's move on to our next program language. So let's do the push button for function blocks. Modify to 1, modify to 0. Now we're in program language 2. So let's pull up our HOA FBD. And we're going to pull up our IO FBD as well. And let's come back into our FBD, our HOAs rather. And let's monitor these guys. Okay, so here we are, and let's get up to the top. And our oil pump is still in mode 2. So we're going to go ahead and toggle the button for off. Modify back to 0, and now we're off. Let's come into our IO, and let's turn monitoring on in here. And sure enough, everything is icy cold blue. Now let's come in here and we're going to push the button for hand mode. So modify to 1, modify back to 0, and now we've set our HOA value for the oil pump VFD to 1. Let's come in here and we can't see what's going on with our oil pump. So let's go to our handy watch table, and here we go. We want to look at our oil pump HOA, and we want to see what that is. And we want to look at our oil pump. Actually, I think we already have our oil pump energized out right there on top. Good. Let's turn on monitoring, and yes, okay, our oil pump is in 1. And no, our oil pump is not energized. Okay, that is a problem. That means something's wrong. So that's going to be in our IO. And what's the problem here? We're looking for, that's an AND block. And actually that should not be. That should be an OR block. So let's see, is that an OR block? Yes. because we want this or this to be true. And I know we've got that same thing on all of these. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so that should have fixed that problem. Because before we were looking for this condition and this stuff to be true, and that's not what's supposed to happen. So let's update our program in the PLC, reload it, and now let's see where we're at. So okay, now we've got an output here. Now that thing is working. Good. So let's come back into our HOA, and now let's push our auto push button. So come over here. Oh, we're not monitoring anymore. Let's go back into monitoring. Okay, and auto push button, modify to 1, modify to 0, and now our HOA is set to 2. Come back in here, and sure enough, we're set to 2, but the control bit is not energized, therefore the AND is not energized, therefore the OR is not energized, therefore our pump is not running. Okay, I think we're good on that. I think we've got our function blocks working now. So let's close down our function block stuff, and let's get into our SCL. So back to main, and we need to go back into monitoring. And for our push button SCL, let's set that to 1 and back to 0. Now our programming language is set to 3. Let's load up our HOA SCL and our IO SCL. So on this, we already know we're definitely going to have to use a watch table. So let's come in here, and we're going to add ourselves, we want that our oil push buttons for off, and our oil push button for maybe hand and auto as well. So oil, where is hand? There's my hand push button, and there's my auto push button. So all right, we're monitoring. And right now our HOA, you know what, let's get rid of all this junk in the middle that we don't give a rat's ass about right now. Good. Okay. So right now our HOA is set to 2, and we can see that our output is not energized. That's a good thing, right? Let's go ahead and toggle this thing into hand mode. So we're going to send in a true, and as soon as we do, look at that. Our HOA is 1 and our output is energized true. That's good. And let's turn off our hand push button, and let's go back to our off push button. Whoops. So let's push the off button again. Sure enough, we go to 0 and false. That's exactly what we want to happen. And now let's push our auto push button, and yes, it's now HOA is set to 2, but this thing did not energize because we don't have our control bit. Okay, so our SCL looks good right out of the gate, and man, you know what that means. That means it's time for some STL action. So let's close down these. I'm not even sure why I opened those. I opened the databases instead of the program files. Let's go ahead and set our STL. So modify to 1, modify back to 0. We've got a 4 on program language. And now let's come up here, and we want our HOA STL. And we want our IO STL, okay? This is the moment of truth. This is the one that's got me nervous, right? So let's test this thing out. First thing that we want to do, actually, let's do this on the watch table. All right, coming in here to the watch table, let's see. We're in auto mode, and we're not running. That's a good thing. So let's toggle the hand push button. So let's set that equal to 1, push it in, and our output energizes, and our HOA is equal to 1. Okay, we like that. That's a good thing. Let's toggle that push button back off, and let's try the auto push button. So set that to true, and then back to false, and yes, we're in 2 and we're not running. That's a good thing. Push the off push button again, and true, and we can set that back to false, and our HOA goes back to 0. Nice. And just for fun, what happens if we push the value of 89 into the HOA? And as soon as we push it, it immediately sets back to 0. I didn't test that on everything else, but I did want to test this one because I just wanted to make sure everything worked. So yay, I have got working STL logic. And yeah, nice. I feel good about that.